Hey folks, welcome to another edition of Fitness Friday Posi-TIPS with Rachelle. I hope your 2021 continues to be off to a great start. And folks, happy Mardi Gras, Fat Tuesday, also known as Mardi Gras, is this coming Tuesday. So this will be the last episode you see with me. You will see with me with my Mardi Gras beads on. And just wanted to kick off this episode by highlighting, last time I talked about the anatomy of a decision, the importance of making decisions, not resolutions. And I certainly admitted years ago, I used to make resolutions myself, not around fitness, but certainly around other aspects. So I understand the allure of it's a new year, we're gonna do things differently, we make some resolutions. And I've just found myself personally that decisions, certainly making strong, solid decisions and taking positive steps towards making those decisions a reality in my life in terms of goals and outcomes has just been a much, much better path for me. And so I want to continue this conversation. This was highlighted last time. Continue this series on the anatomy of a decision. The anatomy of decision. We make decisions all the time. We make tons of decisions on each and every day. Everything from which route you're going to take to work or whatever the case may be, to what you're going to eat, to what time you're going to pick up your child from any type of extracurricular activity. And so we make all types of decisions. And so when we think about, yes, we have minor decisions, and we certainly have major decisions that we make in life. And so particularly around those major decisions, it is so important. And this is just kind of a foundational episode. We talk about the value of pros and cons in decision making pros and cons list. I mean, it's certainly old school, is sit down with a piece of paper, or certainly you could type on your smartphone or tablet or laptop, whatever type of device you have, or even mentally, you can mentally think about, ponder the pros and cons of a particular decision. But the important thing to note is, as you're evaluating the pros and cons, it is so important to not get paralyzed by analysis and just, what am I going to do, and not kind of get stuck there in neutral. It's important to evaluate the pros and cons, make a decision, and move forward. Don't get stuck in the mud and mire of, this many pros, this many cons, and I don't know what I should do. You've got to believe in yourself. You've got to have that inner confidence to know that we're all going to make mistakes. We're all going to make wrong decisions in life. And so it's so important that we certainly learn from those mistakes, learn from those wrong turns. But it's important to actually just move forward and not just get stuck and then find yourself in a position where you can't move forward because you can't make a decision. You're just, what do they call that? Paralysis by analysis. We don't want to ever be in those situations. So what I want to do is share with you, this is actually a 3-page pros and cons list. And you've heard me talk actually for a number of months now regarding my fitness decision. And for those who may not know yet, I am a proud new member of Edge Fitness in Farmington Hills. And I debated. I had 3 choices. I narrowed it down to 3 choices in early 2020. And those decisions being in terms of where my next fitness facility, in terms of my joining, was going to be Edge Fitness, Schoolcraft College, and LA Fitness. And just certainly to be transparent and balanced, I was a member of LA Fitness in the past, but never worked out at one of their facilities. And the reason is in June of 2012, I was a member at that time of Bally Fitness in Novi. And LA Fitness acquired Bally, and so my gym closed, but they did give us an option to go to any of their different facilities across Metro Detroit. And certainly the nearest one to me at that time was Southfield, which is, about 10 miles east of me. And so didn't want to drive that far. So anyway, that's when I joined Powerhouse Gym in Novi at that time. And so eventually, I did cancel that LA Fitness membership. And so technically, I've been a member of LA, but did not work out at any of their facilities. I just always like to be transparent about those type of things. And so when I think about the pros and cons, and just I spent some time, evaluating pros and cons of each. And I'm going to read through these pros and cons pretty quickly, just to give you some thought and just to look at the amount of decision making that of course you obviously can't read this, but you can see just how full these pages are in terms of how I evaluated each, And part of that, a big part of my evaluations, and this is certainly true for all of us, is knowing ourselves. We have to know ourselves. We have to know what our likes and dislikes are, our preferences, and particularly around the area of fitness, I want to make sure to point out early on in this episode, if you have never belonged to a gym before, or you don't have a lot of gym experience, recognize, and I want to have some humility in this conversation because I have a long history. I have a very long history in fitness and working out since May of 1994. Actually May 17th, 1994. And so I know myself very well, particularly around fitness. So when I've been in a lot of different facilities across different states and different types of facilities, and actually some foreign countries, I've worked out in some fitness facilities. So I have a lot of breadth and depth of experience. And so when you hear me going through this and you think, well, like, how does she know so much about, these type of things? And part of that's because I just have a lot of experience. I've been to just even gyms that I never joined, different grand openings, different types of facilities. And so when you hear me go through this, just recognize there's a very long history. And up until the shutdowns happened in March of 2020 for coronavirus, I had been exclusively in terms of working out in fitness facilities since May 17, 1994. So just keep that in mind. And so when I kick this off, don't want to make this episode too long. And so started off with Schoolcraft College, fitness center in Livonia, Michigan. Been to that facility a couple of times. Actually, the last Valentine's Day Fitness Friday episode of last year of 2020, I actually filmed that at Schoolcraft College in Livonia. And remember, I was talking about the Pre-Core EFX was the fitness love of my life, and I was so excited to be able to be back on that machine. And so that was Schoolcraft College. And so when I look at some of the pros, and so what I have here is a new indoor track. And so what I have here is I can sprint. Next, wonderful natural light inside the workout area with floor-to-ceiling windows, especially the cardio section. And so a lot of natural light. I'm a very big fan of having a lot of light, a lot of natural light here in terms of my condo where I live. And so that's just something that is very important to me, and particularly in winter months. And in winter months when it's really cold and in certain days it can be dreary and overcast and gray, just having a natural light source is so important all times of the year, particularly in winter, because we can have some gray dreary days, but we can also have some sunny days where that sun can come in, and it just makes a wonderful difference, particularly early in the morning when I work out. So that's very important to me. Strong safety zones, and I have here in parentheses cardio section, stronger than weight area. So it's just policies and procedures. How strong are the safety zones, which is the space in between the machines? Are they crammed together like you'll see at some facilities, or is there a nice healthy amount of safety zones? Next, TVs on most cardio machines. And so that is important to me, particularly when I'm on a treadmill. Running on a treadmill for me, I admit, can be very rough because I get very bored on a treadmill. So if you see me looking at a TV, if I'm in a situation where the facility doesn't have TVs on the machines, you will see me staring up at a TV. It doesn't matter what is on the TV. I'll just be mindlessly looking at the TV to kill time and keep my mind off running on the treadmill. And so having TVs on machines, I recognize it's something that, because I just was in a situation in my last season of fitness, in my last facility, where there were no TVs on the individual machines. And so for me, if I want to watch ESPN, like again, you'll see me running, you'll see me looking at, I'll have ESPN or something on my TV. And so that is something that is very important. I don't want anything super heavy in the mornings when I'm working out, super controversial, and just all of that. Anything that's really negative. I don't like to start my mornings off super early when I'm working out, 4-ish, 5-ish in the morning, with just a bunch of negativity. I mean, yes, that may be true, but I can deal with that later on in the day, regardless of what it is. And so that is just something that is very important to me. I want to have the option. If I want to watch something on TV, I want to have the option to make a decision in terms of what I want to watch on the TV. So I put that certainly as a strength. They have standard size stretching mats, so would enable me to do a full stretch. Next, Stability, and so what I meant by that is a college facility subsidized by state funds and student activity fees, not profit driven. So this will be very different and create a different environment in terms of stability, as I pointed out, because what you have here, it's not in a traditional sense compared to other facilities, particularly commercial facilities, profit driven. So you're going to have an environment, it's hard to describe, but it's just a very different environment where you're going to have decisions that are made based on technically, what is right versus how can we make the most money or how can we not lose, which is certainly, the number one, one more important thing in business is to make a profit, certainly. And so there's room for that, there's understanding for that, there's a framework of commercial facilities for that. But in a college-oriented facility where they don't have that type of financial pressure, yes, they're going to have financial pressures, particularly during this coronavirus, like everyone else. But there won't be the same level of just pressure, revenue pressure, profit pressure, member retention, member acquisition that you would see in some of your commercial type of facilities. So it's just going to be a different type of stability because, again, a lot of the operating expenses are covered by student activity fees and funds from the government in terms of the state of Michigan. Next, Precor cardio machines, actually their preferred vendor, they've got Precor, all types of machines. Next, low volume facility, so you won't be waiting on machines in that type of facility, it's just the lower volume facility. Next, painless cancellation policy, once again, because it's not profit driven in the traditional sense, they do have those subsidies. Unlike your typical commercial facility, you want to cancel your membership, you want to pause your membership, it is very, very painless. It is very, very painless because they're not, just so concerned about losing a member and losing a potential monthly revenue or yearly revenue of that member leaving. Next, stability and leadership and staff. And so what I have here is work study and part-time employees, recruiting handled by Schoolcraft HR, which has systemic hiring and recruiting procedures. So you've got Schoolcraft College HR, Human Resources, which is handling candidate recruiting, employee recruiting, recruiting systems, and all of that. So there's just going to be more of a standardized process in terms of the candidates which are able to move forward within any department within that college. Very, very true at the college and university level. Next, simple pricing for community members. So there is a $35 one-time fee and $25 a month. Bam, end of story. So not complicated at all. Not complicated at all. No hidden fees, no surprises, none of that. And so next, cons, slow-moving overhead fans and cardio section. And sometimes I have to laugh at myself whenever I'm in a facility with slow-moving cardio fans because I'm a very cardio-intensive workout individual. And so I'm cross-training, I'm interval training, and so it's always interesting in terms of the temperature level, but because, of course, Schoolcraft has the floor-to-ceiling large windows, that enables, particularly in the winter months, some of that cold air to seep in, and it just creates a nice balance in terms of temperature because the cardio section is certainly pretty adjacent, portions of it are adjacent to some of those windows. And so just had to point that out. Next, 8.6 miles each way according to Google Maps, so it is a little bit of a drive. Next, compliance driven like Planet Fitness, rigid culture. This is something that I noticed certainly when I worked out last year during that Valentine's Day fitness. And this is something, again, just me as a trainer, employee training and development, I pick up on these cues right away in any type of business or facility or anything like that. I'm evaluating, I can watch the employees, nobody has to say a word to me, look at the body language, it tells you a lot. I can read environments very well, and so that explains why, in certain facilities, particularly those that are compliance driven, have a tendency, across industries, have a tendency to be fear-based, and people are afraid to lose their jobs. People tend to keep their heads down, particularly in a gym or fitness facility. It is very, very obvious because gyms tend to be not always certainly, lively, open. There's energy. And so when you have employees that aren't talking to one another, that are keeping their heads down, you don't see any type of cell phones out. No one's playing with their cell phones. Nobody's on their phones. No cell phones in sight. That tells me a lot that tells me a lot about the facility, and that tells me a lot about, from a compliance standpoint, there's some serious and there's some rigid rules there that employees are following. So I had to ask myself in this, in evaluating Schoolcraft in terms of this con. I just spent some time, just spent 3 years, more than 3 years at Planet Fitness. Do I want to go into another situation that was going to be compliance driven? Did I want to do that? And so that was on that list. Compliance is wonderful. It helps to create, certainly, to enhance and make sure that individual entities are adhering to brand standards across industries. But the flip side of that is that you can have very high turnover because, with the compliance, and tends to be very fear-based in many situations, and people are afraid of losing their jobs, and people are afraid to make mistakes. It just can create some very tough environments. And so had to ask myself, did I want to go from one situation where that was very, very evident across locations to another location just like that? So kept that in mind. College-based facility with higher need for compliance policies. Yeah, so I did, in my mind, tell myself, a lot of college facilities, college and university facilities, because in their minds they're dealing with college students who may not always follow the rules. And so if you go to different fitness facilities on college and university campuses, you will notice that it's certainly more structured, certainly much more rigid. They're certainly keeping an eye on people. It's just a very different, can typically be a very different environment. So I had to keep that in mind and say, well, hey, this is a college-based facility, so you're going to see more of that. So I had to kind of keep that in perspective. Next, dead atmosphere in the mornings. Like Fusion Fitness Novi, when I first joined before leaving Bally. Quick backstory. When I moved to Novi, I actually was a member at the time of Fusion Fitness, which later became Powerhouse Gym, when the owner, the founder, Paul Wright, sold it to the Powerhouse Gym co-founder. And so it was there for a year, and then I left there and went to Bally. And so it was very, very dead. I mean, there would be maybe 4 of us there in the mornings. I mean, it was dead because it's a beautiful facility, basketball court, all of that. 70,000 square feet, 2 levels in certain parts of the gym. But it's just, for a facility like that, it takes a ton of marketing to make it successful. It takes a ton of marketing. And so, of course, at the time, a lot of marketing wasn't done on the facility. And so it was just very, very dead. And so Bally closed, and then a boatload of people left Bally and went to Powerhouse. And so that really, really helped the situation tremendously. So just a little bit of the backstory, but very, very dead environment. Next, won't be subjected to constant marketing directed at me. So true. So very true. Just you join, leave you alone. That's just the college situation. Why? Because there isn't that revenue and profit pressure that you would see typically at many facilities on the commercial side. Not all, but many. Next, physical location footprint limited to Livonia, Michigan only. So just one facility, one location. So keep that in mind. And so I did have an analysis on the pricing. As I stated, very, very clear. $35 one-time sign up and $25 a month. You can pause your membership. You can cancel your membership 20 times within 5 years. They were only going to pay that one-time $35 fee, no matter if you're stop and go, yo-yo, gym goer. That's just how their policy is, which is very, very generous. But once again, they're subsidized by state funds and student activity fees. So that was my analysis on Schoolcraft College. Next, I'm going to move to LA Fitness, in which I evaluated the Plymouth, Michigan location, which would have been my home club. But at this point, I would have signed up for the nationwide all-access membership level. And so the pros, prior history as an inactive member for 1 year after they bought out Bally Fitness in Novi in 2012. Next, a national footprint, especially in major markets. They bought out a number, since they bought out Bally, they had a number of locations, particularly in Chicago, a lot of locations in Chicago. But in major markets, they've got a strong footprint. And so that was an option for me in terms of getting an all-access membership where I can go to different locations across the country. And for me, having a multi-club access is very attractive to me for a corporate chain. Is because what you're going to see is more standardization in terms of equipment. So I can go to any LA Fitness in the country and see a Precor EFX. And so whereas in the franchise model, there's just so much, there tends to be just a lot of inconsistency because you have different owners, different locations, and I just recognize, I think for me moving forward, if I'm going to join a multi-access club type situation, it's only going to be in a corporate chain. It's only going to be in a corporate chain because I realize that I love variety. I'm very random in that regard, but I need that consistency in terms of the machines and my workouts to be at a high level regardless of where I am in the country at a location. So that's just something, as I learned lessons from my own fitness journey moving forward, that was a big one. Next, basketball courts, so just anything from shooting some hoops to me twirling my baton, that was an option. Next, cardio breadth, including pre-core. So yeah, that was there. Next, standardized stretching match, which would enable me to do a full stretch, so important. Next, TVs on those cardio machines, won't go into all of that, already discussed it. Next, potential for days of my workouts. And so for that, what I mean is, for those of you who watched me long enough when I was at Powerhouse, I would have occasional episodes where I would talk about days of my workouts, which are very, very informal episodes. It just literally what happened today during my workout. Sometimes it would be bizarre things would happen, and so there was some entertainment value in terms of some things that would happen that you'll see certainly at commercial facilities and certainly facilities, even community facilities with large numbers of members. You're just going to see there's just going to be some interesting things that go on. And so there was potential certainly at LA for days of my workouts where I could just sit up and talk about my workout. Next, wonderful natural light inside of the workout area with floor-to-ceiling windows, especially cardio section. Just that windows, big windows, very, very important to me. Next, multicultural diversity, melting pot, very, very diverse membership base. Cons, post-COVID challenges and uncertainty. Just the major chains have really, many of them have had a very tough time as a result of the coronavirus pandemic closures and losing members after they've reopened, and it's just a very fluid situation. So certainly that was important. Next, we'll be subjected to marketing, not so much due to all club membership plans. So if I were to join the one club, one home club plan versus the all access plan, typically from a marketing standpoint, you're the subject of marketing that's trying to drive you up, that are trying to stimulate, motivate your behavior to upgrade, get that all access plan versus the one club plan. And so that's done through marketing, that's done through emails, that can be done through phone calls, that can be done through when you check in the mornings where someone wants to talk to you about upgrading your membership. And so that is very, very true, particularly on the commercial side. And so with me just coming in the door with that, joining as that all club membership plan, I wouldn't be subjected to that. Thought that certainly theoretically I wouldn't be. Next, special strategy required for cancellation. Certainly just across the nation, this is one of these chains that is known to make membership cancellation very, very tough. Certainly not 100%, not trying to generalize here. There's been a lot of documented cases across the country with people having a very tough time and billing issues in terms of canceling memberships, and they continue to bill all of this and that. And so had to keep that in mind. And next, I won't go through the pricing analysis of the one club plan versus the multi-club plan, but from purposes of decision making, when you're evaluating pros and cons, you have to ask ourselves, the cost-benefit analysis is another way to describe this as you're evaluating what you're paying for something versus the benefits that you're going to derive. And so in this case, yeah, with a national footprint, particularly in the Chicago area, here in Metro Detroit, have a number of clubs, would be important. It would be worth, from a cost-benefit standpoint, for me to have that second-tier plan of all club access. But in some cases, it wouldn't be. It wouldn't be. So that's something that needs to go into our decision-making, whatever it is that we're deciding, particularly major decisions, the cost-benefit analysis. All right, someone may take a job 75 miles away from home, and they live in a northern state, so the winter months you could be dealing with snowstorms and long commutes, and it's just things like that. The opportunity cost of you spending so much time in traffic, commuting, that you could be spending somewhere else, or the wear and tear on your car, or the gasoline purchases that you're going to have to make due to that increased commute. So we need to evaluate all sides of the equations when we're making these decisions. So next, the Edge Fitness Clubs, which I definitely joined, Farmington Hills, Michigan, the pros, corporate, regularly. And this is something now, keep in mind, I went to the grand opening September 28th of 2019, and so been on their corporate email list since then. And so, I was able to evaluate just, this is one of the, from typically every year and the other year, always studying some type of franchise, fitness entity, evaluating, learning leadership lessons, operational lessons, and I've shared a number of those with you over the years, just studying different entities. And so I was able to see firsthand just what a strength it is in terms of soliciting feedback from members. Now, I'm very opinionated, so if you want to know my thoughts, just ask me. So it's just very important to me. Come into the door, you have an entity, you have a chain, you have a franchise chain that values member feedback and regularly solicits it. So it was very, very important to me. Next, consistency and communication from corporate. Even during the coronavirus pandemic, just very, very consistent in terms of their communication, in terms of their marketing efforts. The newsletter, the weekly newsletter that comes out on Sundays have not derived from that strength and consistency of communications. Next, honored my request for no contact from membership advisors from October 2019 to October 2020. So when I let the membership advisor at the time know that I wouldn't be moving forward joining, and asked, please remove my name in terms of your call list, your prospect list, because I understand that. So I have a sales background, so I understand particularly, but I don't have a gym sales background. So that type of pressure that is placed on those individuals. I was in medical sales. We were in a regulated industry. We had a lot of sales training. And so it was just very different situations. You have a lot of people in sales situations that are just in actually across industry, but certainly in fitness industries where there's just not a lot of sales training. And so that's where you will see a lot of strong arm tactics, a lot of manipulative tactics, a lot of just those type of things, because you have people just placed in those roles with no training. But my membership advisor at the time was wonderful, did a wonderful job. I was so disappointed to hear that she left, and so I wouldn't be able to give her credit for my joining. 16 months to the day later from my stepping foot in that club for the grand opening. But they honored my request. And for a commercial facility that's sales driven, what I mean by sales driven, yes, obviously profit and revenue generating, but selling, they have a cafe, they're selling shakes, they're selling personal training. There's just a lot of more opportunity in terms of things that they need to sell, services that they need to sell. Products that they need to sell, okay, supplements and things like that. But I've had no issues. I've had absolutely, asked her to remove me from the list, did not hear from anyone from the club locally until Eric reached out to me in late October. And I was, at the time, he was a manager. Had no problem with that. Actually, I appreciated the contact. And so honored my request. And a lot of your top, whether it be corporate chains or franchise chains, that's just very, very tough when you ask them to leave you alone, because this has been a very big source of complaints for fitness facilities in terms of text marketing, mobile marketing, and I asked them to stop contacting me and they won't take me off the list. They still keep calling me, and this is just true across the board, across the industry. So was very, very pleased that they honored my request. Very, very, very pleased. Next, breadth of cardio equipment, including Precor EFX, AMT, and Octane LX lateral trainers. So yes, my 3 favorite machines have been reunited. And so I'm going to talk a little bit more about that in my final episode on this series next week. I'm talking about happiness. And just so I've been reunited with my favorite machines. I feel like I'm in a literal, figurative playground when I go and work out in the morning. So I'll share that with you next week when I talk about happiness. Next, fairly new equipment that has already been broken in since opening. And so, I like machines. It's one thing to have a brand new machine, but I like machines that have been broken in, people have spent some time on. And so, yes, you got a lot of broken in machines since it's been open for a while. Next, first fitness entity to inspire me. And so won't go into the long story about how I've been inspired by Edge Fitness. And so when those facilities were closed last year, the gyms were shut down, and how Edge Fitness inspired me to start working out at home. And I put the Edge Fitness t-shirt that I got at the grand opening Have it hanging downstairs in Rachelle's Home Fitness Center. So very, very, very inspiring. They continue to inspire me. Next, first fitness entity whose marketing speaks to me. Very, very important. So again, from an engagement standpoint, I talked more about this in the fall and the end of last year. The Perils of a Drifted Gaze, I did a whole episode on that in early September. So just got my attention, and they have not lost it because they spoke to my mind. They fed my mind, continue to feed my mind, continue to keep me engaged, and they have a very unique perspective. They're big on education. And so that is something that is very, very important to me. And I had to share that. Next, first fitness facility to captivate me and keep me engaged. Yep, that's what I just talked about. Next, first fitness entity whose marketing speaks to me. So yes, seeing people that are physically fit, that have muscles, yes, that are passionate about their fitness, absolutely. Next, learning opportunity from a competitive analysis standpoint. So competitive analysis, I've talked about it in a number of episodes. I've done some episodes on competitive analysis, just one of my professional areas, certainly areas of personal interest as well. And so they are very strong when it comes to competitive analysis and what they're doing versus their competitors. And it's certainly a David versus Goliath situation, so but very impressive. And so, but this is a time for me, particularly as a member now, where I get to see up close and personal some of their competitive analysis strategies and all of that, see things, piece things together, certainly on a much deeper level than I could have from the outside as a non-member. Next, pricing for membership levels, and so they've got different membership levels, so very, very effective and affordable and pricing scenarios. Next, education, training-based culture, certainly from a membership perspective. Already talked about that. Next, founded in 1989, established on the East Coast, so been around a long, long time. They actually started out as Fitness Edge and then later rebranded to the Edge Fitness Clubs. Potential next for Days of My Workouts. I already talked about that with LA Fitness. Next, multicultural diversity melting pot. Very, 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 and I can tell you this, and I was a member who's worked out there several times. Very, very diverse, multiculturally diverse membership base. Certainly the most diverse facility that I've ever belonged to. And so something very, very, very passionate about multiculturalism. Actually, my thesis at my first graduate degree in the graduate program in Florida dealt with multiculturalism. So it's just cool to be in that type of multicultural environment on a personal level, professional level. The cons, next, potential. Now this was done before I joined, so it'll make a little bit of sense when I tell you this point. Potential slow-moving overhead fans. So that was true. They had the slow-moving fans when I went into the grand opening. And at that time I stated no one was working out then, so I didn't know if that had changed or anything. So there are still the slow moving cardio overhead fans, but the cardio machines, you've got fans on each of the machines, so that is neutralized. And so as a member I can definitely tell you that. So from a commute standpoint, next, 10 miles each way to the location compared to something that may be even closer. So a little bit of a hike, but I did point out here, I have in brackets, Planet Fitness Commerce, my last gym, wonderful gym, was 12.3 miles each, according to Google Maps, both. And so this commute issue of my going 10.1 miles is less of an issue because I will be working out at Rachelle's Home Fitness Center. Remember, I'm splitting the time, so it won't be just only exclusive gym workouts, so there won't be just a continuous commute issue. Sales culture. And I have here sales culture like LA Fitness. I have been very, very, very surprised. No one has tried to sell me anything, so I think it's a matter of sometimes, we may have a perception of something or how we think something is, have not had any issues whatsoever, period. And next, what I have here is sales culture oriented turnover, and this will be true just like LA Fitness, any type of sales entity. Whether you're, people that are selling or entities that are selling personal training and group fitness classes and trying to upgrade members to a certain level, or you have Lifetime where they've got, spas and get your hair done and all of these type of things. Whenever you have these business units and these product categories that you're responsible for selling, that just creates a sales culture. And so as a result of that, you're going to have sales pressure on individual trainers who are trying to sell personal training, or you're going to have people that are in individual business units where if you're a Lifetime, how how are things going in a spa or salon? They just have these P&L or profit and loss responsibilities, so they've got to be moving product, they've got to be generating revenues in each of these business units, and so as a result of that, you'll have a turnover because of that sales pressure. And just it's very, very true across gym entities and chains when you've got that pressure. Any type of sales, whether you're talking about somebody selling new cars or used cars. And so when you're dealing with somebody in any type of sales situation and they're pressuring you and they're strong arming you, just recognize a lot of that comes from the sales pressure that they are feeling from above. And so as a result of that, you will have turnover that you wouldn't have otherwise. Because people, just that sales pressure can be tough. Because if an individual isn't making their numbers, meeting quota, then their job is on the line. And so that's just the absolute truth in any type of sales situation, particularly those that are commission-based or commission-only based. You just have some very difficult situations where a person's ability to feed his or her family is on the line with their ability to sign people up for memberships in this particular certainly a context. This is just the truth and how it is. That's just how it is. So you're going to have turnover. Next, special strategy required for cancellation. All right, because it is a commercial facility, and I must admit, since I've joined, this was before I joined, so when I joined and actually noticed as a best practice from a competitive analysis standpoint, during the sign-up process, they deal with ABC Financial like a number of other fitness entities, but it was very clear what the cancellation policies were, how the communication needs to be directed to ABC Financial to do the cancellation, to begin the cancellation process, to initiate it. All right, send the email we need 30 days notice. It's very, very clear. Or you can send an actual letter with your cancellation to the ABC Fitness. I believe they're in Arkansas. And so there it is. It was very, very clear to me. And I thought to myself, it's very, very clear. But as I stated a few episodes ago, with joining gyms and fitness facilities, people get emotional of, oh yeah, and I'm excited, and a lot of times just don't read the full contract, don't understand the contract, or they're dealing with a salesperson perhaps who isn't going through the contract and cancellation policies in detail. So there's just a lot of challenges in the fitness industry around this whole concept of membership cancellation. So just have to just know what the cancellation policy is and be willing to follow it. Whereas a non-sales oriented, profit-driven culture like Schoolcraft, where you just walk up any day and say, okay, cancel, no problem, all right? Versus a commercial facility, even though, with all due respect, I had a wonderful experience at Planet, but they have, no commitment, easy cancellation theoretically, but you have complaints from across the country with people saying, I tried to cancel my membership, they're still billing me months later. This is just something that's plagued the fitness industry for a very long time. And so I'm always challenging, and as I did on one of my final episodes of last year, Fitness Friday Posi-TIPS, just know what the cancellation policy is, know it well, and adhere to it, and be willing to take any additional escalation steps to make sure that your cancellation is honored if you need to, but you just got to make sure you're doing your part in terms of canceling. All right, next, potential COVID-related challenges in terms of potential shutdowns occurring. So just like any other fitness and an entity, okay, what is the situation going to be? This is a very fluid situation. So this is going to be true, of course, across the fitness industry in terms of cancellation, membership facility closures and reopening and potential closures again and all of that. So this is true, this particular point is true just across, certainly, the fitness industry. Next, regional player on East Coast currently, while yes, they are expanding. All right, and so what I have here in brackets, though, is assuming expansion plans paused due to COVID. It's just true across the industry. I think the shutdowns taught a lot of fitness facility owners in terms of recognizing that, having a whole lot of fitness facilities, it just gives you a whole lot of fitness facilities that you're going to have to deal with that are struggling. And so they've certainly put some of those plans on hold, including the Northville location that was certainly slated to open in the summer of 2020 that's been paused indefinitely. But I view that as, from a business standpoint, from a professional standpoint, I view that as a positive, because you don't want to set people up, you don't want to set general managers up to fail. You're putting this, there's a lot of uncertainty in the fitness industry right now. You have a very big accelerated shift towards digital and at-home virtual workouts from home, and Peloton, doing extremely well, and things like that. Just an accelerated shift in that direction. It's just simply questionable to be opening up a lot of facilities right now. I mean, even still, in 2021 versus 2020 when the coronavirus first hit. And so it was actually that Northville location would have been closer to me, but respect that decision, appreciate that decision to pause that, because you don't want to set people up to fail, particularly in that particular market with competitors that in any facility, when you're coming in, you're going to need to build your own market share, and you're going to need to essentially get some members from other facilities, and that's certainly tough in this type of environment when a lot of fitness facilities in general are struggling. And so yes, I had the 3 levels of pricing based on membership levels, so I evaluated that. And so just wanted to give you my thoughts on decision making. So I made my decision, Edge Fitness, very, very pleased. Like I said, it's just a playground. I mean, I'm sprinting again, jump rope. I mean, there's just so many different options. I haven't been in the Edge Cinema yet, but so many different options. I'm very pleased doing full stretches again. It's just a return. Just like someone actually told me last week, Rachelle, you were back in your element from a fitness standpoint, and that is so very true, so very true. But so my journey, this journey since 1994 gave me a lot of insight in terms of evaluating these pros and cons, in terms of where I wanted to be, where I needed to be, the decision that I need to make. And so, folks, as we make decisions, let's just take a look. Let's take some time to evaluate the pros and cons regarding what we do, what we decide to do, what we decide not to do. Because when we do our pros and cons list, based on knowing ourselves, knowing our strengths and weaknesses, knowing our history, knowing our preferences, our likes and dislikes, a lot of times the decision will make itself. It won't be as hard when you essentially look at the paper and say, based on what I'm looking for, what is important to me, what do I need to do in this situation? All right, and so it was very, very clear in this situation. And obviously I had been exposed to Edge on a very, very high level in terms of getting the email communications and all of that. So I had a very, very long experience with Edge, even before I joined it, since going to the grand opening. So folks, let's all make decisions. Let's all press on. The coronavirus paused a lot, hit the pause button in a lot of our lives in 2020, but let's commit to keep on keeping on and moving forward, progressing, right? Particularly on our fitness journeys, on our leadership journeys, on our personal levels, on our professional levels, all of that. Let's keep on keeping on. Let's keep moving forward, and let's recognize the anatomy of decision as something that is simple as doing, and certainly underappreciated. Pros and cons list. Pros and cons. Let's really think through what we're doing, folks. So that is all I have for you today. It's been great. I'm going to close this series out next time by talking about happiness. That is the most common point or comment that I get and have gotten over the years. Is, Rachelle, you are the happiest person I know. What is it? Tell me more about it. And I'm going to share my thoughts on happiness and as it relates to decision making next time. But until then, remember, I am positively passionate about your fitness and success. Make it a